Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be talking about witches, more specifically The Witch, a film currently out in US theaters that is sure to cause some interesting discussion. Joining me tonight, first up, he makes bloodygoodhorror.com with his little beaver hands. He's got a beard. His name is Mark.
Why they gotta be little hands?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Beavers don't have big hands, that's why. Come on.
Take my little hand, it's stronger.
I guess technically they're otter hands, Mark, but that's a conversation for a different day.
They're really just mittens.
Next up on the show, he's got a big old beard. He vapes. His name's Casey.
Hi!
Can you blow a cloud of smoke like out of the bottom of your beard? I would be impressed by that. Yeah. Oh,
You don't know ain't
nice.
got some tobacco.
Next up on the show, coming from New York City, the city so nice as I decided last week that he lives there. His name is John Schnars.
That's why they named it twice, my friend.
Drinking out of his Duke Tervis tumbler because
Boom.
he can't go a day without reminding us he went to Duke, and there's a hospital there, no big deal. Anyway, last up tonight on the show, a special guest. She is here because she went to college for symbols and shit. She's here she's here to bring her general witchiness to the show and tell us all about all things witch. Her name is Cece.
Hello.
Cece, I just want you to know that there will be no, as a group full of white men. Oh, when I said Cece, my phone thought I said Siri. That's pretty funny. It's
Pretty
talking
close,
to me.
I guess.
Come on there.
She says,
Cece
I'll
over.
pretend I didn't hear that. I don't know what she thought I said. Anyway.
You called her a witch.
We will not tolerate any witching tonight, Cece, so don't go
Okay.
using your feminine wiles or making baby butter or like anything like that.
Baby butter.
No thanks. I think I'll pass on
Churning
baby butter.
babies and, goats and...
I think this is the first time Cece's been here since we had I think she missed out on the hospital conversation. We should ask her as a Southerner if she's familiar with the Duke University Hospital.
I'm going to say that's a no.
No? I
Oh,
mean,
stop it.
You know why? Because
Yeah.
it really isn't a big deal.
I was going to say, I'm like, we've got Emory Hospital in Atlanta, which is a pretty
that
big
one's
deal.
garbage.
Oh, it's garbage? Got it, dude. Gotcha.
Oh, you mean that garbage hospital? Great.
Fuck your garbage hospital.
You get right out of here with that.
Oh,
Come back.
man.
We missed you.
Oh, Lord. I've missed this.
I gotta
I'm
give
glad to-
I gotta give Cece credit because she basically just emailed me this week and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be on this show," and I was like, "All right." I'm sure Joe's not gonna show up for like the fourth week in a row, so you're in.
I thought it might work out. I was like, oh, it was a risk, but I'm glad I
Deal.
took it.
What, didn't Cece get an invite to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
I did. But I had to go to a funeral.
She has a
so I
very
don't know.
finicky schedule. It's tough to
All right.
pin Cece
Well,
down.
I'm curious. Did you see the movie, Cece? Did you
No,
see the?
I was
TPZ?
going to. I had planned on seeing it for the show, but then we had some stuff happen, so I was like, whoops.
Sorry.
That's
We're
a
the only people that saw it on purpose, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
that thing just disappeared,
hear a whole
man,
lot
off
about
the
it.
face of the earth. I do have to say, like, is this Joe's third week in a row that he missed, or fourth, or something?
Second.
He
No,
was
it's-
he was here for Yakuza Apocalypse.
Are you sure? I don't think he was.
No, he
No,
definitely
he
was.
wasn't. Because
No.
this is the second week in a row that I feel like he would have been hilariously bewildered by the movie, and I just wish he's here.
Yeah,
to
we
talk
went
about
we
it.
went 4-man crew.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
Raw dog, real OG style without Joe when the show was
Yeah.
good.
back in the day.
Just
Four
kidding.
man
I love
I'm
it.
actually
Eric,
to the point,
Eric
John,
talks
where
shit
I'm almost to the
about
point, John, where I'm
whoever's on the
almost as sad when Joe's out as when you're out.
Oh,
Not quite as sad, but it's getting there.
I
How do
hear
you feel when I'm out?
Pretty sad.
He doesn't have
He
any feelings.
Celebrates, little.
But we basically have the same
Guilt
brain,
tears.
so I can fill in for you and me at the same time.
Close
So
enough.
we're here this
I don't even
week.
really need to be here.
We're here this week. Now you can make the site though. You're good at that.
The witch!
The Witch. We're here to talk about The Witch, a New England folktale, if you will, an independent film shot for a tiny amount of money that went nationwide into theaters, which means we had the chance to see some trailers this week. And I got to say, John, is it Hardcore Harry? Is that this movie's called?
Yes, Hardcore Harry.
I
I
don't
thought it was
care.
Hardcore Henry.
Oh, maybe
Henry,
it is.
okay. Harry might be better, but I'm okay with Henry. Haters be damn, Schnars. If you don't watch this trailer and think this movie's fun, I don't know what to do for you.
No,
got
I'm
nothing.
I'm in for this. My question for you is: are we going to cover this on the show?
You know, I did think that thought, John. When is it coming out? Is it coming out soon?
So I penciled it in. There's actually another release, an actual horror movie called Before I Wake, that's at least currently scheduled for that
I'll
same week.
ring.
Like,
but
what
we
month
have
are we talking?
we in April. We have a shitload of open weeks too in April, so we can always pencil
That's
it
a
in.
movie we could pick up the next week if it's open. Like, I bet you that'll stick around.
We do review any movie starring Charlton Copley by default. So
Yeah,
I always wanna-
he appears to play like at least 2 or 3 characters in that movie.
I always want to
also.
call him Shartlow, and that's definitely not his name.
You know, it's actually it
That'd
is
be
kind of
funny, I know.
fascinating to me because I feel like
yeah, I mean, listen, I'm pretty excited for it. I had not even heard about it, and I saw that trailer and was like, "What in the f is going on?"
I had
And-
because I've heard like film nerdy people being very pretentious about it and being like, "Ugh."
I
But
saw
as-
the short
Sound
they
like
did.
nerd people.
But it occurred to me though that I had this thought that like if you're not a genre fan, you probably have not been exposed to as much first person stuff as we have. You definitely haven't. Like we
Doom.
Well,
So I wonder if like
yeah.
see, and
I was gonna. This is more of like a first-person shooter video game.
well, that's what's
than
interesting.
anything else.
Yeah, is it's not full on found footage, and that actually makes it this whole other level of. To me, it's like, John, you were years ago we were doing Cloverfield or something. You're like, eventually it's gonna get to the point where they're not even justifying why you have a camera, and we definitely got to that point. But now it's even. Now I feel like they're just fuck it. Well, who needs a camera?
Well,
We'll just
the other thing that this Hardcore Henry kind of kicks off is like, can you imagine when this is like a VR movie, which is like all anyone wants to talk about now? I don't know if you guys saw the news with like Samsung's demo this
I think
week.
it would
but-
make you sick. From what I've heard about VR, I think you'd throw up.
Yeah, but they'll fix that eventually. Like they're not that far away from fixing that. So
I just this specific like the quick movements I think would be really fucking. Crazy.
I don't know,
I play-
dudes.
I
I
played
lived through
a,
the first round of VR and I got burnt, so I don't
Listen,
want to.
The Virtual Boy doesn't count, Casey.
Sometime
dude,
last
I
year,
had that.
played,
I had
uh,
Virtual Boy.
Of course
I
you
played a
did.
really shitty VR Google Glass game for Insidious 3 on my phone.
Nice.
Was it spooky?
It was like you're in a room and you're just
Could you do
turning
this?
around and shit is like jumping out at you.
So it's AR.
No.
No, it's immersive. Have
No,
you seen?
'cause it
You
was
said
the
you played on your phone though.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
have you
see
seen-
that,
but it was
you haven't
with
seen that
the-
new video of that picture
Google.
of Zuckerberg this weekend with all
Yeah.
the people
Oh,
with the.
did you have it in some
Samsung
Google
masks
Cardboard
on?
there, Mark?
I did have it in some Google Cardboard.
Okay.
I sat through a really boring Google keynote and just played that instead of paying
Was
attention.
it at all immersive being on your phone screen?
No, because you have. I mean, well, it encompasses your field of vision certainly, but you are also standing like in a room just turning in.
And those VR headsets too, like actually hit your like peripheral too.
Well,
Well,
the
I-
cardboard does too, but it's not. But
they're
you don't Get
curved.
this, well, you don't get the sensation of it just being physically wrapped around your head, specifically because you're holding it up to your face.
You have to
like-
hold it. I mean, that's the biggest downside. I was actually really surprised how immersive cardboard was, given that it's a fucking piece of cardboard.
$20 piece
It's
of
a
cardboard.
it's a fucking pizza box with a lens and a magnet.
yeah.
Pizza box.
No, I do have to say, like, it's pretty obvious though that like this VR is the real thing, and I think what's really interesting about it is that games are really like not the important thing about this VR. Like, I've seen all these really interesting stories about, people in hospice using it to like take trips for the last time, and medical students using it to learn how to do surgeries. Like, I think it's actually gonna have really fascinating
that's-
appliance
but I
like
think-
applications.
When you talk about entertainment, like
I
this
mean, I
stuff,
want
like
to just play games and look at.
Hardcore Henry is definitely like, we're gonna get to the point where there's VR movies of some
Totally,
kind,
yeah.
and it'll be something like what Hardcore Henry is. At least points in one direction. I don't know if that's actually what
I want a VR movie where I just piggyback on Liam Neeson's back while he kills people. Can we do that?
Where like a Queen song
somehow
plays.
has like a little person on his back, and
Yeah,
you're in
like,
perspective of that.
I am
little
just
person.
strapped to his
Oh.
back the whole time.
You could do a whole movie from Master Blaster's point of view.
Yeah. Or
But-
gently wrapped in a baby Bjorn, I don't know.
I don't know, and I think I've heard a lot of like chatter about whatever about Hollywood. These are cheap to make. This movie doesn't look cheap to make or easy to make at all. It actually looks like a pretty complicated exercise if you're really looking at what's happening.
See, my problem.
Go ahead, Casey.
I was gonna say my problem is I'm down with the idea. I thought the trailer looked cool. I thought the original short they did was cool. I don't know if I can sit through an hour and a half of that without yakking all over the place.
Yeah, they really have to be measured with the amount of time they're giving you shaky cam and like bringing you back to it. And yeah, I agree. But I'm way into it.
This
Also,
thing got a release already? Like it's when I like Google searched it, it came up as like having a release date in 2015.
Maybe it was like limited or foreign somewhere else, or
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably New Zealand, isn't that where? No, South America. That's where Charlotte's from.
sure, it's
I've done no research, so you're welcome.
it's the Sharp Man, as I like to call him around these parts.
It looks like the
Sharp
guy's.
Low.
I don't know.
Sharp
I'm
Man
not
Carruthers. Anyway, what other trailers
if
we get?
If you want me to go see a movie, put "Don't Stop Me Now" in the trailer because it automatically makes the movie just seem so fun and awesome.
Makes the violence hilarious and upbeat, you know?
If it's one thing I love, it's
While
hilarious.
I shoot this guy's eyes out.
Yeah, while I throw a grenade at his feet.
I don't think I got a single horror thing in front of the witch.
So have you guys? So John,
Oh.
you didn't see the Green Room trailer?
Oh yeah. Well, I was curious if you guys were lumping that in. as
I think
horror.
we should
So-
actually do that because it looks pretty like home invasion-y, which I think is traditionally a
Yeah.
genre we would dip our toes into.
No, I think there's definitely room for it. So we did.
Plus, Patrick
Blue
Stewart
Ruin.
as a bad guy looks fucking badass.
We
Yes, he
did
does.
Blue Ruin on Fist Cult like maybe 6 months back, something, and that was the director's previous film.
Okay.
So Shelton is like
Oh.
real. He's real junked
Yeah, 'cause
Oh
up.
Jesus!
It's got
Blue
that
Ruin.
Macon Blair that was in Blue Ruin in it too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Blue
I mean,
Ruin is bleak.
I kind of think if it's in theaters, we should do it, but Shelton's more than welcome to join us. And for all we know, like there might be a conflict
It's
that
gonna get a
weekend.
wide
Yeah,
release.
he always fucks up our connection when he's on the show.
But there might be we might have a conflict anyway. We just might not be able to do it in that case. I
I
think.
think it is open right now. It's actually the week after Hardcore Henry.
So that looks interesting. I really was fascinated by I got the Purge election year
Oh,
trailer.
I did get that
and I
one,
went, you
too.
know
Yeah, I
what?
got that
I got to go back and see that second Purge movie because this shit got
Yeah.
cray.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of like, I kind of love those movies.
I am fully on. I haven't seen the second one.
And not for nothing, but like oddly prescient given the current mood of the
Well,
country
that-
and how
I know.
murdery it is.
I'm worried that they rushed getting out the third one to match the time
Sure.
that it is now.
That's
So-
exactly what I was going to
Well,
say.
was
is
last year
they
Anarchy or was it 2
definitely
years
rushed
ago?
this.
I thought it was 2 years ago.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Oh, maybe.
It's gonna be weird when they put Bernie Sanders' face over the main heroine.
Or
in
no, or the
post.
guy. No, the guy just wears like a Bernie Sanders mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, Eric, you were right.
Gotta
It
stop
was
the
July
purge.
2014 was the last
All
one.
right, so that's enough time to.
No, and a bunch of the writers loved Purge Anarchy. We were talking
Yeah.
about it on Slack. I was kind of surprised how many people liked it more than the first one.
I like.
I
the
know. I
first
feel
one.
like
Yeah.
the Purge Anarchy is the episode that got away because I haven't had a chance to watch it. And I
Like,
feel like I like it.
maybe it's
Joe
like
did
maybe I'm
wanna see
whitewashing history, but I really enjoyed the first movie. I thought.
Yeah.
Well, if I am remembering our conversation correctly, I think one of our original complaints about the Purge is that we expected it to be way crazier than it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, sure.
Like this third movie specifically appears to just be the craziest manifestation of whatever the Purge could possibly be.
Peak
You know?
Purge.
Peak Purge.
Yeah.
Purge down for what?
I'm way into that. I just like to state that for the record.
it is on the calendar. 7/1.
John,
release
you
date.
want to talk about this dumb Sacha Baron Cohen movie?
Oh God, the brothers Grimsby.
I was so confused in the first minute of this trailer, not knowing if it was supposed to be funny or not, and then I saw him and I was like, oh.
I kind of loved it. I kind of love the trailer. I've seen it several times now in front of the last couple of things we've seen.
Watching
and,
Google Cardboard right before the show.
yeah. It makes me smile a little bit.
Why don't you tell
I'm
me about
sure
this
it's
movie,
going to
John?
be terrible. Well, it's two brothers separated, not at birth, but like sort of early in life. And one is Sacha Baron Cohen, and he is like a meathead football soccer fan. What are they called? There's like a name for them.
Hooligan.
Yes, he's like a hooligan. And then the other one is, I think his name's Mark Strong. Is that the actor? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like a badass secret agent. And Sacha Baron Cohen finds him and like gets reunited with him. But messes up all his secret agenting and then has to save him.
Like he's about to assassinate somebody, and then that's the moment that they're reunited, and he's like, "Brother," and he like runs and hugs him, even though he's clearly got a gun in his hand.
While he's
So
bent over the railing.
Listen, I gotta
It's pretty good.
give Cohen props for the restraint in not playing both brothers, because how did
Yeah.
that not happen?
no, the reason to be on board with this is that it is the same director as a certain movie called Transporter 2, also a certain movie called The Incredible Hulk. There's some interesting action type films in this guy's oeuvre. So, I'm on board.
It's over.
It's actually pronounced Orvuvi, John.
Or movie.
Or
I like that pronunciation better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Should we talk about the lady that ordered shrimp in my theater and then was confused when shrimp showed up?
Well,
Also, that sounds like really
She
gross.
thought-
No,
thought they were
honestly,
gonna
so
be
that's the
small
kind of
poppers.
mind-blowing thing
Theater
about these
shrimp.
these Regal dine theaters
Yeah,
is that
I mean we've got one in Atlanta.
they
but
have it seems like they hired a real chef, because like it's actual food. They make burgers and like grill stuff, but they were just fried like shrimp
really? Because at
poppers
my
or
theater,
whatever.
you can get Oreo churros. Can you get that at your
That
theater?
sounds pretty good. No, so
I would trade for Oreo churros.
I hear her and her husband order food, right? Which like the first scene of this movie is just gross, or the second scene, I guess. So I always find horror movies really weird that people are eating
I mean,
during
did
them.
she have marinara sauce with it? Because then it would have been
Right,
really
right.
great.
But then all of a sudden, this real quiet moment of the food, she leans over. She's right behind me in the row behind me. She leans over to her husband and goes, "There's shrimp in this," and you could tell he was instantly mortified because the theater was silent. And he's like,
Honey, there's fucking shrimp in my shrimp.
"We ordered the shrimp. Shut the fuck up."
I,
Man, and I was
in
sitting
my
next to a
screening-
10-year-old, which I thought really odd, given
Yeah,
the
in my
subject
Starting
matter.
early.
Oh,
my screening, there was a family with an infant, like a real infant that was crying and cooing and making.
Crying.
I thought y'all were
why
just
not?
talking about virtual reality. It was just really trying to bring the movie to you. They just, under like
It
It was like a
put
Rocky Horror
baby
Picture
there.
Show kind of
That's
thing.
gonna be the
Yeah.
true pinnacle of virtual reality when they insert theater assholes around you in your virtual scenario. But yeah, no, there was
Don't
like an
even
actual
say that out
there was
loud.
a baby, like crying and
Baby.
cooing and making baby noises, and there was a period of time where I couldn't tell if it was coming from the movie. There was a period of time where I knew it was no longer coming from the movie, but there was in the lead up I couldn't tell if it was the baby crying in the theater or if it was coming from the movie. And
Surround sound, you know.
fucking Chicago, man. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's better or worse to bring an infant, like is because the infant has no fucking idea what's going on. I guess if you bring a 5-year-old, you probably fuck them up more.
We had a lengthy discussion over email about our respective states and like other states we've lived in and the prevalence of like little kids in theaters. The only place I ever really saw was in Florida. Like never in Boston, never in New York. Like this 10-year-old was probably the worst I ever saw.
man.
So
I
but-
actually had a good theater happening this time at my screening, but it wasn't in my screening. It was afterwards. I was walking out to my truck and I hear somebody yell, "Give me my fucking phone, because otherwise I don't have a way home." And I turn around and look, and there's a dude on the hood of his girlfriend's car as she's driving across the parking lot. And he's holding on. He's like, "I can't get home without my phone."
that's pretty good.
She stops. He gets off the car, and he's standing at the driver's side window yelling at her, "Just give me my phone, or I don't have a way to get home." And she floors it, and he takes off running alongside
Oh
the
my
car,
God.
holding onto the driver's side door. And then, as
did
she
you
gets
call the
faster,
cops?
no. But as she gets faster, he lifts his feet up, and he's hanging off the side of the car door as she's flying across the parking lot. I
Holy
shit you not.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah.
So nobody will
And the
ever
last
believe.
thing I seen was afterwards, then, because he dropped his bag back there, and as I was leaving, you could hear him down at the corner yelling as I was getting in my truck, and I pulled out to see where he's going, see what was going on, and he was running back the other way to get his bag. So it was kind of nuts.
That's
America.
my purse. I don't know you.
I don't know you. Yeah, so Joe seemed to agree too over the convo that he sees a lot of it in Chicago for some reason.
Yeah,
It's real
I
weird,
mean,
man. Leave like
It's a Midwestern thing.
it's a fucking baby, man.
I don't know. It's
You have to see a movie
different.
that
I mean,
bad.
Do you know how expensive movies are? I'm assuming that childcare is probably equally as expensive.
I
So
was gonna
maybe
say,
they just
yeah.
like
That's
combine
what
it.
Don't
I
go
think
see
that's
a
what it
fucking
comes down
movie.
to.
Get Netflix. Rent a Redbox. That costs $1, and they have new
Hey,
movies in that thing.
I'm just trying to like advocate out there.
Jesus,
They don't have the witch.
that is some terrible ass parenting. I'm sorry.
The witch.
Simmer down, brother.
God damn it. All right,
Simmer down.
The
Just
Witch.
trying to find a good picture of Black Phillip here.
The Witch. So we're here to
Down
talk
now.
about. Take a quick break. and do just that.
Meh.
This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair. It is a small, quiet Maryland town, much like a small, quiet town anywhere. No more than 20 families laid their roots here over 200 years ago, many of whom remain, either on this hill or in the town below. There are an unusually high number of children laid to rest here, most of whom passed in the 1940s. Yet no one in the town seems to recall anything unusual about this time. To us, anyway. Yet legend tells a different story.
Hi, I'm Ed Sanchez, co-writer and co-director of the Blair Witch Project, among other things, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we are back. The Witch. John,
Which?
in case people don't know, where did
Which
you go to
witch?
college? Which college did you go to?
Which college? I don't remember. I was witched.
The University of Duke. What's their rank in the Ivy League? I forget.
Top 5.
Okay, nice. You learned words there. So every week here in the show, you bring us a word of the day. So please, John, bring us that word. What you got for us tonight?
This word comes as a suggestion from a dear friend and listener, and actually my viewing partner for The Witch. He was giving me a little bit of a hard time about my poor word of the day game.
Shout out to that guy.
And so,
Pound.
I said, if you got any suggestions, let me know, and you tell me.
He's like, well,
So-
John, I also went to college.
He went to Duke as well, in fact. So there you go.
I love every part of this.
The word is Baphomet. That is
Nice.
Baphomet. And I'm reading from the Wikipedia because this I do not believe is actually in the dictionary. Or at least it did not immediately show up. But Baphomet is a term originally used to describe an idol or other deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshipping, and that subsequently was incorporated into disparate occult and mystical traditions. It appeared as a term for a pagan idol in trial transcripts of the Inquisition of the Knights Templar in the early 14th century, and it came into popular English usage in the 19th century with debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templars. And yes, since 1856, the name Baphomet has been associated with a sabbatic goat image drawn by Eliphas Levi. And this is an image you guys have probably seen. It's the sort of like goat with a man's body, and he's kind of doing the like...
The man goat.
Yeah, the man goat thing. He's got wings.
Was that a dance?
He's
Do the
doing
man
like
goat.
a point.
Dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Cece might even have. I mean, there's actually a long Wikipedia page on it.
There's a lot on it, so you're giving a pretty good.
So I'm
just
familiar with this
explanation.
because recently, like, one of those trolling Satanist groups had like a 7-foot Baphomet statue unveiled in Detroit.
Nice.
You can look it up. It's fucking real gnarly. It's real awesome. I don't remember what the grounds for were, but it was one of those things where they were just trying to piss people off, and it definitely worked. It's a pretty cool statue, though.
I am searching the statue, and yes.
Baphomet. I'm going to give props not to you, but to your Duke buddy there for nailing it this week. Synopsis.
Yes.
Who'd like to tell me what this movie's about? John?
Cece,
Cece?
as the guest.
Well, it starts out as a New England folktale, so it's kind of based in the early 16 or mid 1600s, and a family is banished from their Puritan plantation because they do not agree with the way that Puritanism is happening there. There's actually some Calvinistic puritanical Lutheran undertones, but we can get to that later. So when they get banished from the plantation,
wait.
when they get banished from the plantation, they move out into the woods because where else are you going to go? And while they're out there, their prepubescent, or actually she's not prepubescent, she's pretty much turning into a woman. Their eldest daughter is...
They tend to do that.
Yeah, you know, it happens.
If left
Fair
unchecked.
warning.
Yeah.
It's like a time bomb.
Yeah. Their eldest daughter, Thomason, who the movie kind of revolves around, is, you know, kind of unhappy with the way things are going. And while she's toured with taking care of her infant brother, the baby goes missing. And we come to find out that a witch has kidnapped him. And so the family is kind of cursed. And the rest of the movie happens, some spooky dooky things start happening. And, you know, that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right.
Wow. Shortest.
Well, I mean, did you want me to like jump into what I thought about it, or did you want me to give you like an
Eric didn't
overview?
even get a chance to interrupt you. I'm
I know, I
not
was
sure
still
this
thinking.
counts
Is
as
a
a
spooky
synopsis.
dookie like a silent but deadly?
Yes, because it was a slow burner. That's what it was.
so smelly, it's scary.
Nice.
I would like to say just fair warning because we had kind of some people asking over Facebook, like, this is gonna get spoilery, like in a little bit here, and I think that
There's no real way around it.
yeah, I don't know, and I think it's a
don't
movie
have
you
to spoil
probably
the
want to just
actual ending for a little while.
no,
like
but
the-
I
the-
think like in general, I would think you want to go in pretty cold on this movie and not know what's happening. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I would
Putting that
recommend.
out there, John. See what people think of it. So fair warning.
Well, we can also talk about the expectation game. Like, don't listen to this podcast. Just go see the movie and make up your own mind about it, because we had a big conversation about expectations this week in this movie.
We had a huge conversation about assholes this week, Mark. I'm just kidding.
I
I'm
wasn't a
actually
part of
not.
that conversation.
I'm not kidding.
What's the deal with assholes?
The Witch, Mark.
Yeah. Man, I had really high expectations going into this because I heard the positive buzz, and it was not the movie I expected. But the more I think about it and dig into it, the more I kind of loved it. My immediate feeling after seeing this was like, oh man, people are gonna hate this movie.
Yeah.
And no one embodied that more than the woman sitting next to me. Where anytime anything like remotely unsavory happened, she'd go, "What the hell?" And then stood up at the end of the movie and went, "You got to be kidding me," and just like stormed out. And so I imagine that's going to be the reaction for a lot of people. But I just think that, I don't know, man, like this movie in theaters is crazy. I texted Eric right after, and
The idea that it's in theaters is like nutso.
well, I likened it to a more accessible version of Antichrist in terms of like tone and production value.
I mean,
It's less
way
offensive.
more
It's less
accessible.
offensive, like visually offensive, but there's way less like linear structure. Like I don't know, it's
I'm
a linear
saying-
film, but it's not giving you a traditional narrative to like latch onto. I don't feel like.
I mean, it's more like
I mean, I kind of.
I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm just
Yeah,
saying like
I mean-
not the way you're used to from a Hollywood movie like
I'm saying
Bagul.
the
There's no
point that
Bagul.
I was trying to make is it's more. It is very more so than like out and out scary. It's very psychological
Yeah.
and very dark. There is not any humor to be found unless you think random shots of goats and rabbits are funny. And sometimes they are.
I don't know. The twins being tied up were pretty damn funny.
That was funny, but
Yeah.
but okay. So there's one. There's
There's
clear
one comic
I'd like to
relief
say
moment.
too that I saw a rabbit in the parking lot on the way out of this movie and went, "Oh hell no!"
Did you hear like a
happening.
drum? Did you hear like a boom? When you saw?
He was
But,
like,
um,
"Hello, Eric."
I just. I
Did you
think-
drop your musket?
yeah.
Can I just want to make it through this thought here.
No, absolutely not.
I honestly though, I think that this is going to be a very challenging film to mainstream moviegoers, and I think there will be people like ultra pretentious about it, like if you don't get it, you're an idiot, and people are like if you like it, you're an idiot, and I kind of fall somewhere in the middle where like I can just appreciate that this is like a really kind of fucked up movie to go see in theaters, and I kind of loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I-
would say I'd follow it up as a case in point for myself. It's okay if it takes you a couple days for it to sink in and for you to understand it.
Well, and I
'Cause it
think
hit
that's
me.
part of what it's trying to do as a film. I mean, if you subtitle your movie as a folklore or a dark fairy tale, I mean, those are stories that have stayed with us through oral traditions. I mean, they're or not thousands, they're hundreds of years old, and they're always like lingering or reminding you of the creepiness out there. So I think that that's kind of how it's supposed to be absorbed, is slowly over time.
All right,
I
Casey.
did want to say,
Oh.
Eric, I do think this is largely a like 3-act structure, though. Like
I don't mean it in that way. I just mean like there aren't like traditionally satisfying plot beats, and maybe it's just about in the end, like I don't know. It's a very airy film. It's very much about emotion and just being bleak and like atmosphere. Like it felt like an ending to me that a normie would be like,
Sure, but
like there's
I would
not
just
enough
say,
of a. I feel like there's not enough of a very spelled out explanation of things for a like very mainstream audience. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also.
I love this fucking movie. I don't
It's
don't get me wrong.
more of it being like an art house film to a certain extent,
It's
and like
super art housey.
Well, but it's low budget, right? Like this guy achieves a ton with a little bit of budget, which is why I mean, I feel if anything, like the movie, the director is almost getting more media attention than the movie is, if that makes sense. At least like on the sites and stuff that I'm seeing stuff about
mean,
the
I
movie,
can agree
it's
with that.
largely him.
Yeah, because I mean it's mostly him and his process of getting the movie made, and like his
The
years of
research
research and
yeah.
the way that like things were made, and everything is very time appropriate, and they only made stuff with materials all the time. They only filmed in places that had the particular trees that would have been around then. So I kind of agree with that to an extent too. But I mean, I think that I mean, as a mainstream audience, I feel like most everyone I've talked to about it kind of understood what was going on. I mean, they may not have liked it or enjoyed it, but the 3-part act I felt was pretty prevalent.
I mean, it's obviously a movie that was made by a dude who's super passionate about one totally random, obscure subject.
Well, he's making a movie about Rasputin now, so maybe just the time
that's
period.
awesome. Like, and I
He's
was
a very period
I was
person.
just saying, like, when we were doing Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, that I love like stuffy period piece films, and so this actually combines those two things in a really
Holy
great way.
shit, he has to get this Ralph Ineson to play.
Oh, I know.
Rasputin too, right? Like that's like a fucking no-brainer.
But I think, Eric, like you saying that it's a period piece, I think that a lot of people went in expecting it to be, a straight up. I hate using the term just a horror film because that makes it, it
Because
kind of
you could do this
deepens it.
movie without dwelling on the period piece stuff,
Sure.
whereas it's almost all about that stuff. It's all about like really putting you like feeling like you live in this era, which by the way seems fucking miserable.
It's super miss.
How literally came out of
Were
this film
you under
thinking,
the impression that like 17th century New England was sweet to
well,
like
no,
live in?
but like but that's a testament to how good this film is, that it puts it in such a visceral way to you that you just feel gross and like defeated. Like all I could think was, how is the human race still alive? It wasn't even winter in this movie. Like, how did people survive through the winter?
No, it's what
insane.
I honestly like. And
The answer
and
is that people like us would be dead.
we,
That's the real
yeah,
answer.
that's fair. We haven't even.
We used to get
figured
weirded
it
out
out.
by natural
There's no
selection.
glamping in puritanical New
Yeah.
England. I'm sorry.
Our circle has sort of broken down, but I actually want to jump in on that because like one of the things I love the most about this movie is like about the fact that it's really like about a family living on the frontier, and it's exactly what you said. Like you get such a good appreciation for what it's like. I actually was
Just how severe life is.
well, I actually would have loved to see a little bit more of them getting set up. I realized that would have probably been
right,
really
like all of a
expensive
sudden they
to
just
shoot.
have a house.
Yeah. Now,
Well, like multiple buildings
pretty
on their
impressive,
plot too.
yeah.
it's because like that first day when they arrive and they just like put their shit down and there's like a one horse with a wagon.
All right,
and I'm-
kids, we live in this
Yeah.
farty dirt patch now. So
Exactly.
Oh,
I was like, are they gonna put up a tent? Like, are they just sleeping on
Nope.
the
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 ground?
poop
that was
trench
whole
is
building.
that way.
Oh, how did a fucking fox not take this baby like 2 days in? You know, like
Make sure you shit downhill. Don't forget.
So
Someone's been playing a lot of Fallout 4. They just they collected all their supplies, raised up their little compound.
CC, can you give me just the headline on your thoughts?
I thought it was great. I super enjoyed it. I think that, like you said, it was or multiple people have said, it's a super authentic period piece that happens to have, real, imagined, and, supernaturally real kind of still imagined aspects to it that, I mean, it's,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
the historical aspect and the way the research went into it is such a fascinating thread in this film.
yeah, I mean, but even going into the film not knowing kind of that background of it, I think it's still a really terrifying and creepy film. And I mean, I know I'm a nerd about symbolism and I'm a nerd about religion, so I was, sitting
Don't
there
forget
like,
witch.
well, yeah, all of those things. So, I mean, I had been waiting for this movie to come out for quite some time, and I really wasn't let down. It was kind of unfortunate that I went to see it Thursday night, so it was kind of the premiere, and everyone I saw it with, being stereotypical, looked like they would have really enjoyed it, and the
They
majority.
looked witchy.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were like, there was a lot of,
Hot topic-y
You can
stuff.
say black t-shirt people.
there were a lot of us. There were a lot of black t-shirt people, and we all. It was really strange because I've never been in another movie with a crowd that I felt like, oh, I'm probably friends with most of these people, but there was a lot of groaning afterwards and kind of like weird, like raspberry, like this is
Well,
stupid.
just because you're a goth doesn't necessarily mean you're into like arty horror films
Well,
either.
that's
you know
true,
what
I
mean?
guess. So
Takes all kinds, you know.
There was
mom
it
told
does take all kinds.
I was in a completely sold out show on Friday night, and a woman in my show at the very end started clapping like by herself. And I'm like one of these people, like I don't really like when people clap.
Hercules.
Right.
It's just kind of like, come on, like the
Yeah,
directors,
you're already
if
in
the
the film.
director's in the room or like some of the actors or
If
something.
other people start clapping first and there's a majority of people clapping, I will join in. But it is
mean,
a bold move to
peer
start
pressure.
the clap.
But it was just funny because no one else clapped.
Right,
And
that's-
she goes, "What? No clapping?"
I want to be friends with her.
Oh, New York
Wow,
City.
that is some,
I honestly almost started clapping because I
don't-
like,
what am I
really
clapping
liked
about?
it,
It's
and it was
over
just
some
like,
next level theater going. That's fun.
John, what do you think of this?
I'm very much in the same camp as Cece in that like I was pretty excited for this. I thought the trailers looked really really good, and I really loved it. I just thought it's definitely. I mean, I'm trying to have it both ways. Like I do think it's well structured as a film, and like the script is actually I think pretty traditional. But that said, like the music and score is definitely much more art housey. Like the pacing is a little slower. It's what I thought was really interesting is like it does set a hook, a pretty strong hook, by showing you the witch immediately
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
actually
true.
showing you some really graphic shit right up front. And that's not a spoiler. Like I'm talking first 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
So that was such an interesting choice to me because I really expected the movie to be much more about like, are there witches or not? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a witch in the woods? And it's like, no. There's a fucking witch,
And she like
she's
babies.
doing really graphic stuff. In that
So
woods.
she,
Where'd that apple
very
come from?
early in the movie, and you see this actually in the trailer, she snatches the baby from the oldest daughter, Thomason, and then in the next scene is just straight up murders the baby, and you see her like
Baby
churning,
butter.
like butter churning, but the baby's in there, and then she like rubs the blood all over herself, and she seems real pleased with herself.
Which, I mean, to kind of add to it being such an authentic period piece, I think that there's a lot of, I mean, granted, it can be obviously boiled down to a folk tale or a fairy tale, but it's really, I mean, at the core of it, the story is about this coming of age girl who, in a time where sexuality or female sexuality in general is extremely like, looked down upon and kind of restricted. This movie has a lot of very blatant like menstrual blood and like weird female sexuality, like just it's very graphic. But I think that's what witches kind of revolve around, and I think that was a really interesting play for them to go that way.
Concur.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I really did not know what to think of this movie, and I think my no expectations game really helped me with this one because I definitely got excited going into it, but the trailer looked real art housey, so I was expecting that going in. And the coolest part to me is like this historical aspect. So this title card comes at the end is like, this was based off of real like journals and like court proceedings or whatever of the time. And I don't think that means this story is just a story, but I think it means like he pulled like disparate things from all these different things. But I love the idea of it being like historical fiction from the point of view of people that actually thought it was real. And that's a really weird kind of distinction to make, but gives this a super creepy edge when you can put yourself in their shoes and be like, these people in this period, whether these specific people were like quote unquote real or not, like this is how they experienced this kind of thing.
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, he said that the director Robert Eggers said that during his research, the dialogue for the film is based on. I mean, the vernacular in the film is very much 1600s. Like they speak with a very British accent, and the vernacular is very like New England at the time.
Yeah, it's
but,
from
like,
it was in a title card at the end too. I think it said
Yeah,
like it came from
their actual like reports of like witchery and stuff.
Yeah.
So I do think that like
it's
using that as the
witchery,
dialogue.
I believe.
a lot of people too after my screening were complaining about not needing subtitles, which actually there was at least one like key scene where I was like, I don't know what the fuck they just said. I have no idea. And it was like,
I mean, the main actor's British accent is like so thick and bassy, it is almost impossible to hear.
he
what
is
he's-
a
to
severe
understand what
human
he's saying.
being. Everything about
Yeah,
this
he
movie
is.
is severe.
Would you say he's as severe as
Casey modeled his
Gochis is
beard
to some
beard
people?
off him.
And so lastly, and I'll say, and then we'll round back to Casey. I just there's a scene. I felt darkness in this film, and I don't mean like in tone, but like they're in the middle of this field in this like little kind of rickety house he built with like grass roof or whatever. And at night, you have the light of like a candle. And I don't know if you ever try to just like illuminate something with a candle, but it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And like, I think that, and that's the thing that fascinates me about this particular time in history is that not that you can forgive it, but you can understand the way that fear gripped these people when you fully understand the way that they lived in darkness, like all of the time. You know what I mean? And like it is a metaphor, right? Like they were sort of intellectually in the dark, but also just living in the dark, and that was what contributed to this just extreme paranoia. And
I mean,
also
that darkness
like
is very much a character in the film. So yeah,
and also
thoroughly
like
agree.
paranoid because if you have one bad crop or something, you're done. Like if you don't harvest enough for winter, you're fucking dead and you're eating each other. And if you think that your God would do that to you if he was smiting you, then like that's what leads to this stuff.
I played Oregon Trail. I understand how this
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's also kind of different. I mean, we can kind of go in it if you want to ask Casey what he thought about it first, but like that's kind of where their religion really comes into play. And I mean, they don't talk about them being Calvinists, but Calvinists believed in predestination. So it's really interesting as a family to see that they are shunned from their plantation because they don't believe in the same type of ultimate like Christianity that the Puritans did. And while they move out to the woods, the father's very much like, oh, we're going to make it. We're going to do this. Like, we're going to start this whole community by ourselves, when it's pretty obvious that they were predestined without any way to fix that, to die and to ultimately, their daughter to become a witch. So I thought that was also
a witch.
Casey,
what do you think of this movie?
So I am a victim of falling to the hype to this movie, and while that is my own fault, the trailers, if you're just going, I've only seen the trailer once or twice for this movie. I didn't follow it closely. I've kind of stepped back from following that stuff closely to avoid the hype problems, but I was expecting a different movie when I got in there. Yes, that's my own fault for building up wrong expectations. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't like the movie. This was a movie that I thought was shot amazingly. It looked amazing. It was acted amazing. It was creepy as hell in spots. I didn't know what to make of this movie as far as the story went when the movie ended. So I was confused. And it's one of those things I walked away, though, to its a positive to it. As I walked away, I couldn't stop thinking about this movie for 2 days.
Definitely
I saw it on Sunday afternoon. Yeah, and so I'm sitting there mulling it over. And it was literally last night I went to bed, and it was like 11 o'clock, and I'm almost asleep. And I was laying there in bed, and all of a sudden my eyes popped open. It's like, oh, if I think about it this way, it all makes sense. Which is what we can get into it later, but that's what I emailed you guys this morning. It's like, oh, now I get this movie. I like it. It's one of those kind of moments. And again, that's partially my fault for falling into that hype that was leading me to expect a movie that this wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, though, there's a lot of really interesting things going on here, which you guys have already touched on. But this movie has some very terrifying parts, and It's been a long time since I've seen a movie that made a simple forest look terrifying.
You know what I gotta say this movie did for me, and it's something that hasn't happened to me in a long time. I had the like creepy walk back to my car for this movie, like literally like looking over my shoulder and like twitching, and then I saw a fucking rabbit. So
I was gonna say,
I mean, and
can we
also-
talk
then a
about-
goat. I don't know.
Can
You
we talk
live in
about
New England.
the well, that's true.
I
you
do live in New England.
you do live
Yeah.
there. But the depiction of Satan in this movie as a a progressive symbolism of Satan throughout the film is really really cleverly done. It's if you really dive into it, you first see Satan at like kind of depicted, or you don't know that it's Satan, but you first see a rabbit and you immediately think this rabbit's weird anyway.
Oh, that's
But-
Satan. That's Satan.
Well, yeah, because the rabbit's almost like taunting them.
Right. It's taunting them, and not only are they already at such a a desperate time, they literally need food. And rabbits in some religions are already seen as kind of a like a I don't know, like uncleanliness and associated with the darkness or the devil and
'Cause
stuff
they're
like
always doing
that.
sex stuff.
But it's also associated with sex stuff.
Rabbits.
Yeah,
Is
you know.
that true, or is Eric just making
Bang
that
it
up?
like
they do.
rabbits? You never heard that?
Yeah, they.
I mean-
because they fuck all the time. So,
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
You
Nice.
pervs, Jesus.
so not only are
Cece
they
knows.
hungry, Jesus. Not only are they hungry for food and this knowledge or this help that they need, it's pretty much the only thing that they are given is literally the first step to Satan. And then you go into seeing the crow or the raven, kind of whatever you want to call it. It kind of starts taunting them as well, and initially or eventually at one part has a weird run-in with the mother, which also kind of
Weird.
yeah, well, I mean, you could be into that. I don't know.
Boy, that lady at Game of Thrones just plays freaky ladies
Like-
always.
I mean, yeah,
Crows-
she's gonna get typecast if
We
she's
should
not
say
careful.
the in case you didn't notice she plays Lysa Arryn
Lysa
from
Arryn.
Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, Catelyn Stark's sister, and
Maybe she's into boob stuff because
I
both
was
of
gonna
her
say
characters-
she has
the
a clause in her
first scene in
contract
Game
that
of Thrones,
says,
like she's breastfeeding her like 8-year-old son.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mother
will sign
eating
on,
some
but
broth.
only if I get to do some weird boob stuff. Is that okay?
But I mean, crows represent trickery and misdirection and like alchemy and this spiritual or not spiritual but personal transformation. So it kind of shows the mother transforming from a very devout puritanical woman to somebody who's wrought with fear and hate towards her own daughter, which is further
Right, which
pushing
is
her daughter
palpable,
away.
Yeah.
And then of course we're ended with Black Phillip, who I love Black Phillip, but I fucking hate goats and I hate their eyes. So him
Baby goats
leading-
are pretty cute though. You ever seen
Well,
like
yeah,
a baby
goats
pick me
are
goat?
super cute, but if they started attacking me, I could punt a baby goat. I can't fucking punt Black Phillip.
Why are you punting baby goats?
I know.
One of them chasing me. I don't like
So,
them.
do you think on that actress's like acting resume, there's like a skills category and it's like non-traditional breastfeeding? I'm just saying.
I like that Cece was opening up about her hatred of goats, and you were working out the boob joke. In
I
your head.
just
Gotta work out the poop joke.
it was
I
pretty good.
get it. It's
Eric's
amazing.
just workshopping weird breastfeeding jokes in his head.
Awkward suckling. It's one of my strong points.
So I mean, this movie has two things. In my mind, two things like majorly going for it. There's like the sort of stuff that Cece's talking about, which is, and we've touched on a little bit, which is this dedication to all of the trappings of the time period and all of the symbolism and all that. And there's also just this like looming sense of dread. And one of the things that I point to a lot that we haven't really mentioned yet are the twins of the family, who are like very sort of impish and they're kind of
It's a
little
good word to
troublemakers
say,
and
fucking
and
annoying.
shitheads. Well, so they to me, in conjunction with Black Phillip, but also the twins to me are like one of the most, which maybe speaks to me as a person, but like I see all the crazy like witch shit happening and all the blood and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, that's normal horror movie stuff. Those twins to me were so annoying and unsettling and almost kind of disturbing, and I was like, I found
There's
myself being made uncomfortable by it, and then I realized like, oh, that's this
It's
movie
intentional.
doing something well.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, the other thing
There's
I
a scene
loved-
where they're singing like this lullaby or nursery rhyme or something, and I don't remember what was even happening, but the director had like some framing of them, and I think maybe you see a shot of like the crow or something.
It's when they're laying
scared
down,
the
isn't
shit
it?
out of me. They were like dancing in the field. And,
That
like,
was when they were chasing Black Phillip.
Yeah, they were chasing
yeah, it
back.
was just
Black
a
Phillip and
little
trying to,
subtle, like quiet moment that like really was spooky.
I loved, and I talked a little bit about the screenplay earlier. I think this movie was also super smart in the way that it sets up the sort of final twist and the unraveling of the family. I mean, Black Phillip plays a key kind of part of it, and the way that the twins, and because Mark brought them up, like they they are taunting the older sister for being a witch, or like kind of like coming at her about it, and she actually like goes back at them. And that sequence when it happens, you kind of, I think it's pretty well foreshadowed that that's going to come back to bite her. And so when it does, it actually like sets that tension up so well. Like it's so well built, structurally in the script, that when it happens, you're just like, oh Jesus, this is about to get really ugly with
Well, like
these
anyone
twins.
that has siblings is like, oh yeah, this older sibling threatened this younger sibling, and
Yeah.
of course it's gonna
Well, you
come
think,
back.
oh, whatever, that's stupid. But then by the time it comes back up in the movie, everyone is so fucking unhinged. That's all it takes to just flip
And
everything.
that's the thing. Like the script builds all those pieces of the family sort of coming apart, that that there's this other piece sitting out there, and you're
Yeah.
just like,
As a
at some point,
child,
these twins
I
are gonna
often
turn
outed
that.
Eric for being a warlock, like all the time. That was my.
Did anyone
that was
else was anyone else surprised by like how severe these two parents were and the amount of shit they let those two little kids get away with?
So,
Like, wouldn't
I
those kids have been beaten all the time if that
I
was
was
their
gonna
dad?
say I kind of feel like they really would have been beaten, because I mean it was very much like children should be seen and not heard, and regardless of that,
Listen,
I mean
this
that's
is not a time
very,
for whimsy. Your
I
ass
like-
needs to
No.
be out there
they
shucking
need,
corn.
I mean they would have been harvesting or doing things, so it's even more creepy that like
so
these
you
children
guys-
are just
you
doing
wanted
whatever the fuck they
child
want.
beating, is what you're saying. That's what you're.
It just seemed like a weird like
pick your
contradiction to
switch.
me that they're so severe and strict, and yet these kids are just like effing off and they're making fun of the parents and like
Yeah,
Yeah.
but one thing I actually want
the
to bring this
devil
up.
was in those kids. Is
I was,
what
I
I'm
was
trying to
thinking
say.
I was thinking about this earlier today. I actually thought the father was really well drawn as a character, because he actually isn't that strict or severe.
He's
Right.
kind of the softy actually out of the two of them until he freaks out.
You see like there's a pretty good scene with him and the sort of like the older son. They go out hunting, and he kind of like opens up to the older son, and like takes builds confidence between them. And then even when you see the way he interacts with his older daughter, it's never like there's never really any creepiness between him and the older daughter.
What?
There's
Whoa,
a little bit.
I don't know about
It's
that.
not like super overt, but
It's
picked
very
it up.
sexual. It's not like, I mean, it's.
Well,
I get
but
what you're
I
saying.
think that was in the way that it's shot. I don't think that's in the way that it was acted or handled. Like
It's not his intention that
No,
it's creepy.
I get it. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand, but
I
there's
mean,
still.
she's just like the only other like childbearing age woman around. Like, so there was going to be some kind of, weird stuff that kind of came up again, I think it's more in the way that it was shot than
They
in.
play with gays a lot. They're never super specific about who
But when
it's coming.
the kind of like sequence right after the twins kind of out her to the family as a witch, and he runs out after her and
I mean, it's
chases
a very
her.
tender moment.
I was gonna say it's actually not. There's no like inappropriate.
No, oh no.
He's
well,
like,
I
listen, just
understand.
tell me you're
Earlier.
not a witch, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But
Pinky swear.
But
All right,
meanwhile, it is the mother who is the more severe. She's also, to be fair to her character, she's the one who loses an infant that she's still suckling, and like that would probably send you off the deep end. To be
Yeah.
It's gonna send me off the deep end if you say the word suckling again. So let's. Make
I
it easy.
said it one time.
But that was what was
It's
great.
gonna send Eric into a spiral of arousal that he'll never come back.
That was what was great with the characters in this movie, though, because as we approach towards the end and everything starts spiraling out of control. If you're watching this thinking you're getting a more traditional horror movie,
You're waiting for
starting
the
to
crazy
watch.
balls out finale.
Well, you're watching all these people spiraling out of control, and all of a sudden you're starting to wonder: are one of these people actually the witch? And it could be any one of them with the way you see that they're coming apart. Every one of them's coming unglued in a different way. And there was a point. Are we doing spoilery now? So I don't
I
get
think
myself
we're
in trouble.
just kind of.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
But there's a point when Thomason tries to turn
put
the
it up.
tables and point attention towards the twins. and they end up locking Thomason and the twins in the goat barn. And I was sitting there in the theater thinking, it could be these fucking twins.
I actually had the same thought because we do see that there's like another witch, but you're not sure, like, you don't know how her witchy powers work. Like, for all you know, she could be influencing direct actions of these people.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, really more than anything, what you find out is it's more just her manipulating things around them to kind of slowly make them go crazy.
But I think to Cece's point earlier, it's actually like the devil, right? I mean, isn't
Right.
Sure.
I mean, because technically, witches are a harem of Satan, but I see what you mean. I mean,
But-
they're still very much able to, project their energy on people.
But I get what Casey's saying. Like, there were like, even though you kind of, she's more sort of the main character, the older daughter in some ways. And you know she's not a witch, sort of, but like there were moments I had in the third act where I was like, well, maybe she is being influenced and like doing things that she doesn't, like, we're not seeing as an audience.
Right. But I thought that, I know I kind of talked about it and went off on a tangent in the email, but I thought that Thomason having to make the decision, to back up, Satanism is about turning away from the power of, or like the light of God. And, it's very much a physical act, like of your free will. So I thought that it was really clever that even though, her family is tortured basically, and that she's, put through the ringer and everything, that she still has to blatantly make a choice to accept Black Phillip's proposal at the end, basically, and that it's very much her accepting the sin of the flesh, as they call it, and becoming this instead of him or the witches, whichever, just
instead of them just
influencing
possessing her.
Instead of them possessing her.
So do you want to like just walk us through what happens in the finale? Obviously, more spoiler alerts.
So Thomason, eventually Black Phillip decides that he's had enough of everyone's shit, so he headbutts the dad to death, and which is
one of my favorite kills.
At this point, though, like we gotta say, at this point, the twins have been locked up in the goat shed, and the daughter.
Right.
He doesn't know who to trust. Like they're just everybody's losing it. The youngest son, or the oldest son, has died in like one of the weirdest friggin' scenes ever.
Like exorcism.
Yeah,
type
like
scenes.
fake exorcism kind of thing. And like they're all losing their minds basically, and he comes out, I think, to check on them or something.
Yeah, I think he like wakes up or something. I think maybe he passes.
It's after the kid dies that they lock everybody in.
So Thomason and the twins are locked into the goat shed with Black Phillip at this point, and then a kind of bunch of stuff happens. There's some screaming, and then you see the dad come out. Black Phillip headbutts him to death, and then Thomason
He gores him right here.
Yes.
That's the Jesus spot. I know that.
In the Jesus spot.
Yeah.
And
then he falls into the woodpile, which he's been chopping.
Yes.
Excessively.
They make a point multiple times in the movie to talk about how much he fucking just loves chopping wood.
Right. So
what else you can do out there, man? There's no like Game Boy.
But I love that scene when the daughter confronts him and is like, "You're fucking terrible at providing for your family, and all you do is chop wood." I thought that was actually,
not for nothing, but like he's kind of ineffectual as a frontier dad. Like he's not really great.
Prepared.
That's the point. I mean,
you can't hunt, first of all. So what the hell were you thinking bringing your family out?
What if he built that whole house?
No one can hunt with that gun. That
gun is like giant. It was like Cadillac.
All he manages to do in the whole film is shoot himself in the eye.
Yeah, that was the rabbit's fault, though.
It was the spooky eyes of the rabbit.
Yeah, devil
so
rabbit.
Thomason has woken up at this point, and she and her dad kind of see each other while Black Thomas is headbutting him to death. And he also realizes, as Thomason does at this moment, that the twins are missing, and that there's all these goat carcasses around them. And she and her mother also have quite a run-in where the mother starts trying to strangle her, and she ends up stabbing her mom in the face or cutting her throat.
And she's
or
really like still disappointed.
like a
She's she's defending herself, really, even though like she murders her mom straight up. Like
it's very much still.
Yeah.
That's not her turning her back yet.
No, that's definitely more of a product of the situation.
I really love this part. Like I was feeling a little bit of what Casey was, where I'm just like, I think part of me was waiting for like a little more resolute, like crazy of a finale. But this whole scene, especially from the moment after she kills her mom, and she stands up, and you hear about this every once in a while, where like people go through really traumatic events and they shouldn't be able to stand or something, or
Or, like,
you just find them wandering around somewhere like they're fine.
Yeah.
But they're really just in this like
Yeah, I mean,
haze.
she's basically internally and mentally
She
shut
just
down.
stands up and like
And-
literally you think too they're alone, right? We keep talking about that, but
Well, yeah, so
she's
now
in the woods.
she's alone.
They're alone. The bloody bodies of her family
Yeah,
are
just
strewn
laid
around
out.
her, and she's just like totally out of it and just
Yeah.
staring off into space, and then just starts like, I think is that the point she walks over into the barn to talk to the goat or
Well,
something?
she like
I wonder what the
wraps-
goat's up to.
I gotta see what
Well,
Phillips.
no, actually, so she wraps herself up in a blanket
Right.
and she kind of like sits there and
Passes out.
contemplates. Yeah, passes out, whatever. So when she wakes up, she's kind of like, okay, this is I've got to figure this out. So she walks back out of their actual house, not their like barn area, their actual house. And while she walks out, Black Phillip is the only one there. So he walks into the goat shed where she had been imprisoned when all this first went down. And the next scene is just her talking to Black Phillip, but you only see her face on the screen. So it's very much a profile shot of Thomason speaking to the camera in the audience, and she's basically commanding Black Phillip to speak to her or to speak in general.
Right, because the twins have been saying the whole movie that he's been talking to them.
Right, that he's been telling them all this stuff,
Which
telling
is what she tells the dad. When
Right.
Yeah.
and he doesn't believe her. So
Well, he does
you know,
snatch
Am I
that kid up by his
mistaken?
shirt.
Am I mistaken in thinking the twins were just gone at this point?
Yeah,
Their
they're-
bodies weren't there, right?
They were.
you hear something on the top of the goat shed before like they scream and pass out. So you can either assume
Doesn't
that
it collapse on them?
Yeah, well, parts of it does, not the whole thing, like not the
I
whole
don't remember.
foundation.
I mean, they were definitely dead.
Yeah, I mean,
I
well,
can't
they're
remember how it happened.
you don't really see. I don't think that you see their bodies, so you can either assume that they were kidnapped by witches and
They
used
could have
for-
been
because there was a witch in the
Yeah.
shed with them, so I didn't know if she took off with
Dude,
them. or-
that
Or
scene was
they-
so scary. Just and again, I sound like a broken record, but the isolation in this film is so well done.
right.
And they're in the barn. They've been locked there by their father. It's overnight. It's black, and like you start to hear footsteps, and all I could think about is like if you've ever been camping and you hear like an animal walking around at night,
Fucking Sasquatch.
and it's so clear because it's the only noise. That is like the most existentially terrifying
That's a
thing.
goddamn
Because you're
Sam
like,
Quench.
I'm a modern ass human, and there's nothing I can do. Like I am just if whatever this is big enough to eat me and decides I look good, it's over.
I don't
and-
think humans ever were really able to do anything.
And even again, like when she wakes up after the whole family's dead, it's like the type of isolation in this film. They do it so well. It's such a terrifying thing, just to me personally. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you live in New England, it's not necessarily in most parts of Massachusetts, but like it's not hard to find super isolated areas that are just like this place in this movie.
I thought you were
And
gonna
it's
say it's
just
not
as
hard to
gray
find
as it
satanic
is
goats.
right now.
So, as the audience only sees Thomason's face in the frame, she is commanding Black Phillip to speak to her, and the audience doesn't hear anything for a while. And then when we actually do hear something, it's a very, very low, but
Oh.
like appealing masculine voice. Like I don't really know how to
Hello.
describe it, but it's very. I mean, it's a very
I'll take your
charming.
word for it.
Yeah, you know. Well, I mean, hey,
Yeah, like
No, that
a,
was terrifying.
but
right.
I mean,
It's not guttural and animal like. It's
but
like a
no,
suave.
it's not. It's
old
very
dude.
suave and very comforting and welcoming, and it's very sexual in tone
Why don't you
without
sign my
saying
book?
without saying anything sexual at first. So you know,
like that.
Nah, you
Did I-
guys
did I
are
nail
good.
it?
no, I think
Yeah,
you need to
keep going.
practice.
Screw you guys.
Hello?
So
Is this thing on?
when he starts speaking to
Hello?
her, he asks if like basically what she wants, and he's like,
So,
"Sup, girl? What can I do for you?"
Is it me you're looking for?
Anyway, so he tells her that he can give her butter, which is a huge like luxury at the time. So I mean, that's like basically saying I can give you all of the sweets of the
hey
world.
girl, you want some butter?
I find
Made
that
of your
still
baby
works.
brother, actually.
It still works with the right crowd.
I mean, it's true.
butter.
I mean, I think the Paula Dean South might appreciate some butter. So,
You want some butter?
Want to be my
Um,
witch?
so he tells her, "Do you want butter? Like I can help you see the world. Like do you know?"
That's a cool line because like that's like it's
I
not.
showed
No,
you.
that's a great line because like you're saying though, it's about making the decision, and you don't make the decision because you're coerced through. You make the decision because they promise you like all the worldly pleasures all the time, you know?
Well, and it's very and at this point the screen kind of, pans out a little bit. So you see that he's turned into what we assume is a human because we see boots, like nice, super nice leather boots behind her. So we can assume that he's very like D'Artagnan-esque at this point, and he's telling her that she needs to remove her shift, which is basically like take off your gown because she needs to be naked to sign his book. And he tells her, okay, sign my book and I can give you everything that you want. So it's very much a scene of Thomasin accepting his bribery, but also accepting her sexuality because him becoming what we would assume is something that would appeal to her as a female. And so I don't know, it's a really well done ending.
Don't forget too, when you talk about like the sort of pleasures he's promising her, think about how profound the idea of having anything she wants and or seeing the world to this specific girl after we've just watched this whole movie of the hardship these people are living in, and the idea of somebody in this century thinking about seeing the world was probably seemed impossible and was just mind-blowing,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Her whole family's dead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean,
also, to be fair, if my whole family was dead,
whatever,
my
I'll be a
options
witch.
were
Are there
keep
dude
my
witches?
clothes on,
Yeah,
and
there
eat
were
rotten
lots.
corn.
I mean, there's
or
also
eat
men
butter
witches.
for the rest of my life and get butt ass naked. I would definitely take
Can I
it.
can I keep my socks on? I have sensitive feet. Yeah, I can't really walk on rocks.
So
That scene,
after
though,
What about boat
I just
shoes?
that scene was the greatest scene in this entire movie because
Yeah.
when she first starts talking to Black Phillip and she's kind of giving up because he's not answering or anything, and it looks like she's getting ready to turn away. And in the movie, it's very dark. The theater's very dark, and then all of a sudden you hear this deep, bassy voice whisper. I was literally like out loud going, "Oh!" It's like, God damn.
Yeah. And then the part I think that most people were kind of frustrated with, she removes her clothing and she and D'Artagnan, her and Black Phillip walk out of the kind of goat barn and into the woods. And as we see them walking into the woods, there's a giant bonfire with several witches kind of dancing and writhing around it. And as she walks up to it, all the witches start kind of rising and flying.
That was a really cool visual.
Yeah, and then you kind of see her kind of float off into the group as well. So I think that I liked the ending and I thought that was really well done as well, but I can see why other people were probably not.
It's just that it doesn't and I don't mean this as like a knock on it, but it doesn't really telegraph where it's going. And so there's any number of like 5 moments before the actual ending where I was thinking like, okay, it's going to slam to black right now.
Right.
And actually ended up giving me a little more of an answer in the end than I even maybe expected based off of what I had seen.
Oh, this went way further than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Given what we watched, I was expecting her to walk into the
and him to say something and then slam to black.
And then that was it. Like
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see that he promised her these things and he delivers. I mean, he basically takes her to his harem, and then they're already kind of starting to, fly or, teleport or whatever themselves into, the spiritual.
And in a movie where every human being feels really powerless too. So even though it's not a crazy effect, it's not this nutso thing, but just that thing of them floating in the air is such a stark difference from like the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think, I would guess that, I didn't have a problem with it, but I would guess that that's where the disconnect happened for a lot of people, because if you went in as like a traditional horror fan expecting like a traditional horror film, that's almost the closest thing to a traditional horror film you get, and it's in like the last 5 seconds of the movie. I actually found it to be a pretty satisfying payoff. It is
I did too.
Starkly different, and I can appreciate that it was starkly different, but I can imagine that contrast is what put a lot of people off to the ending specifically.
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
it's you're forced to suspend a little bit of disbelief throughout the movie, but you can actually almost explain almost everything that happens in the movie up until that point. besides, like at the transition of when Black Phillip kind of disappears and it becomes this more human like character.
There's
like,
also the
actually
sexy witch
speaking-
scene. Don't forget that. That was the
Yes.
other one that's like pretty fantastical.
Yeah, and then it's
Yeah,
very
sure.
you know, it's interesting that it happens to Caleb, the older son, when he goes out to find them food for the family. He runs into a witch who is, this gorgeous otherworldly woman who
She was pretty.
who he doesn't see any other women besides his sister, who he's already kind of, become infatuated with.
Leering
He's
at-
into.
Yeah, physically, and his mother. So it very much opens itself into him accepting this bribery as well.
And it's really the
Sure.
only scene in the movie that could have came from like a traditional
Yeah.
horror film, which is why I just think normies could have a problem, because like that's it. It's sort of jump
Yeah.
scary, but just in a nice like not overt way. But that's
Well,
it. That's all you
and
get
I-
until like
at
the end of the
risk
movie.
of,
Basically.
at the risk of going down too much of a demonic rabbit hole, I think that
Oh, we
this
gotta
movie
wrap.
occupies kind of a similar space of Crimson Peak, where it is a movie for people who are appreciative of horror, but not necessarily people who just want to go see a horror movie. Like
That's a good
Crimson
way to
Peak,
put
we
it,
had this
yeah.
discussion about like there's certain aspects of Crimson Peak that are only palatable.
Is that the porn parody?
Yeah.
Crimson Meat.
It is not
Gross.
palatable, guys. I
Jesus.
will tell you.
I didn't say Crimson Meat.
Yes, you did.
Yes, he did.
All right, I think we got to wrap. I get your point, Mark.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes. All right.
Jesus.
I'm just thinking about meat now.
We got.
Oh.
Would you recommend this movie, Mark,
Crimson, yeah.
in theaters?
Yeah, specifically in theaters, because I think that it benefits a lot from just kind of being
The
immersed in-
atmosphere for sure. Casey?
Yeah. Even
See?
for not understanding it, I would, in the moment, I would say yes.
Cece?
Yes, definitely. I would want to see it again in theaters for sure.
Shanners?
Yes, agree.
Me too. Yes, thumbs up. 5 thumbs up from Bloody Good Horror Crew. Mark, what is Movie Guide, and can you read us one?
Oh, mother of God. So I tweeted earlier in the week that we might have to retire this segment, and I'm going to give it just a little longer intro, even though I know we're kind of running over.
No one's retiring anything.
But listen, so moviegod.org is a Christian website it's run specifically like by this one reverend or person, or we looked up shit on him a while ago and I forget all of it. But basically, when a mainstream movie comes out, this person or one of his minions review a movie for the objectionable content specifically. So if you are a God-fearing family who's taking your perhaps infant to a movie, you could read this website and you could be informed of anything that you could find even remotely offensive. It ranges from full-on orgies to like suggesting that you solve problems without prayer, right? So
Which is unacceptable, to be clear.
This movie should be right up their alley.
I mean, it's going to take me a while to get through this paragraph. But this movie, the reason why I
Like,
said
they should have been right on with all the morality in this movie.
well, yeah, maybe. The
Right?
reason why I say I might have to retire it is because this movie actually occupies like the perfect movie guide space, because Christianity is so deeply embedded, and yet all is this, it's this
They
witchery.
pray.
I
and
like to
not
think that
many
the movie
problems
guide
are
for this
solved.
was like, girl's evil and gets punished. Thumbs up. That's it. End of review.
She doesn't though. She gets to see the
I was
world
gonna say
and
she
eat butter.
gets what she gets what
Butter.
she wants.
Yeah, and if you're expecting to hop back into this without spoilers, please avert your virgin ears, because there are going to be a lot of spoilers.
All right, go.
amongst- And hold on, I need to take a drink of water before I go in.
All right, well,
Ooh, that's a
so,
very purge-esque
and this Black Phillip parody Twitter account.
Oh my god.
So the
is
one, I don't know if
best.
you guys clicked on this, but the one
Oh, it's the
where
fucking best.
the goat is coming at the father and it says, "Lol, come at me, bro." He replied, the actor who replied back, "Oh, I'm coming, bro," and he posted a screen capture of a Google search for goat meat recipes, which makes this guy my favorite actor on earth.
God.
That is fantastic.
You clearly did not scroll up and read the tweet that I sent you that I just have to read quick. It was Black Phillip replying to someone, and he said, "I'm not okay with this." And the tweet he was replying to was from Hunger Human. It said, "Hot tip, ladies. Next time your man is about to climax, whisper Black Phillip says you are wicked in his ear." Jesus, I just love that Black Phillip has inspired so much creativity. Okay, so back to Movie Guide. Here we go. The Witch features a very strong occult worldview involving witchcraft and demonic possession with strong anti-Christian elements and extreme pagan tones about a Puritan family banished from their community for vague charges of witchcraft, who are beset by a witch and demonic forces after they resettle near some scary woods. Though the parents try to battle the demonic forces with prayer, but their prayers prove fruitless. Light, possible, foul, blasphemous language and a couple intensely...
They weren't sure if it was blasphemous because they couldn't fucking understand what was being said.
Totally. And a couple intensely disturbing scenes where several people are crying out to God at once, but it's difficult to discern if some of the cries are mocking God rather than calling on his help. Increasingly disturbing, very strong violence as more and more terrible things happen to the family, including teenage daughter accused of being a witch, verbally threatens the life of her younger sister and nearly chokes her to death to keep her from telling or for her admission that she has an interest in witchcraft. A hideous black goat with giant... It's not
Hideous
even a
black
hideous
goat.
He's
I
a
thought he was
perfectly
fairly
handsome
attractive
goat.
as goats go.
That's the Southern Bible Belt for you.
A hideous black goat with giant horns that the family owns attacks the devoutly Puritan father twice, and the second time gores him before knocking him over a giant pile of wood that crushes him to death. A baby disappears when the teenage daughter plays peekaboo with it and is later shown naked being touched in a creepy way by a naked witch, although no genital contact is shown. 3 young children exhibit growing signs of disturbing behavior before uncontrollably shaking and dying when forced to pray against demonic possession. And father, despite having the best intentions in fighting evil, appears to become mentally unhinged as the movie progresses and exhibits disturbing levels of anger towards his unruly children. Strong disturbing perversity when naked baby is touched in a creepy way by naked witch, and a reference to incestuous desires when there's a quick moment of eye contact that seems to imply that the hormonally budding pre-teenage boy eyes his older sister's cleavage lustfully as she gives him a strangely alluring look in return.
If these guys don't write these things with one hand in their pants, then I don't know anything.
Rear female nudity and this is a new one. Oh my god, I love this. Rear female nudity and side female nudity.
Side butt.
Side boob.
Yeah.
Was there side boob? I missed that.
I don't think there was side boob. I think it was just
It was
side.
side butt.
As a filthy long-haired witch appears to sacrifice baby and
Hateful.
She
and
was
upper-
filthy, I'll give him that.
and upper and rear female nudity when teenage girl strips naked and flies off with the coven of witches that she eventually joins. No alcohol, no smoking or drugs, and teenage girl is deceptive. Ooh. Children act weird due to demonic possession, and parents lose their minds to anger and fear.
Despite prayer.
I almost passed out reading that. I think
still think they dropped the ball on this. Should have been like one sentence.
Side
Just
nudity.
recommend.
Side nudity is my favorite. And also this got a rare -4 for content, which is qualified as abhorrent.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Wow, that's rare. I would think there's a
Also,
lot of...
they put so.
I mean, it was. I can see it being pretty blasphemous in their book, so I'm surprised it's not worse.
Oh, I guess this makes sense. They listed language as light, violence as heavy, sex as none, and nudity as heavy.
Well,
so
blasphemous, but like they believe in the devil, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is, which is weird because I mean, you're right. I mean, Puritans were
I mean,
Calvinists.
that's different. I understand.
Yeah,
but...
well, yeah, but I mean, the core of it is that they're all Christians. They believe in God. But the end of the movie, Satan gets what he wants, and she accepts Satanism. So, I mean,
let's be clear. If you're a website that's trying to warn families about bringing their children to movies, you shouldn't bring them to a movie with a fucking baby sacrifice in it.
well, why would you take it called The Witch? I mean, it's pretty
Right,
blatant.
that's what I don't get. It's like that's why I really think there's just like whatever. We got to move on.
I
All
feel
right.
like you should, when you go to Movie Guide, they should ask you if you live in Chicago, and if you say yes, they should just forward you somewhere else because you're going to bring your fucking kids to the movie.
So if
anyways.
you're keeping score at home, that's 5 thumbs up from us, 1 thumb down from Movie Guide. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Over here, I'm a boglin. Me and my buddies need a place to hide out. Come a little closer. Oh, did I scare you? Oh, I do that so well. If you take us home, we'll kiss your Aunt Martha. We'll eat your peas. And we hope you know lots of girls. Hey, the name's Boglins, each sold separately, and we're looking for good homes. Maybe yours.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Back in the house. I cannot recommend enough Black Phillip's joke Twitter account. That guy.
We
is
never
on
mentioned
fire.
it is just Black Phillip on Twitter.
Can I tell you though that like the problem with parody accounts is I always follow them and they have like maybe a good month of material and then it just gets sad and then at some point it turns into like a spam bot and you're just like getting random tweets of like spam links from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Black Phillip Twitter account is probably not going to be active.
Right, not gonna have a life.
If I were to guess.
Yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting.
That's another Nostradamus prediction for you.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com's email address. No
That
email
was good.
tonight. It's only been a few days since our last episode. But we do have some Twitter tweets. We are on Twitter at BG Horror. You can hit us up with the hashtag AskBGH. I just want to say quick, if you're listening to back episodes, don't forget hashtag BGH Classics. Can we check that to see if anything's there? That was kind of, we had people tweeting goofy shit that they're hearing in old episodes to us so we can relive it in all its glory. Take it away, fellas.
Okay, this first one is from Ian Gifford on the Twitter machine. Eric, are you queuing up the tweets or are you just eating dinner?
Eating dinner.
Awesome. Great. This one's from Ian Gifford. Just weighing in. Goat cheese is not aggressive. Totally chili cheese. Or totally chill cheese.
No, that's bullshit. Okay,
Chili
but before the
cheese.
show,
Totally chili
if you were
cheese.
lucky enough to be one of our patrons, which you can do at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror, you can watch our show live on YouTube, see us all on video, and you get to hear our pre-show chat. This week, the subject of goat cheese came up.
Which
All I
is
said about
delicious.
goat cheese was that it's an aggressive cheese. It is a strong tasting cheese. It's not bad. I enjoy it. But
Bro, you
Schnars is
fucking
over here telling me
bad.
that it's just like this mild everyday cheese. Like, I'm going to make a ham and goat cheese sandwich. You know why you've never heard that? Because it's an
It's
aggressive
fucking
cheese.
gross.
I'm about
No,
to
it's
get...
because goat cheese is like crumbly. Like you wouldn't make like a sandwich.
No, but you ever
with it.
had
Would
on
be
top of
crazy?
pizza? That's not crumbly. That's like, like a little slice of that.
No, I don't. I put fucking normal cheese on pizza.
It's,
It's goat
it's an
cheese
accent
pizza.
cheese, John. You know why? Because it's aggressive.
An accent
All
cheese.
right, let's move along.
No,
I just
let's
thought that
not move
one.
on. I need to throw in a strong endorsement for Trader Joe's apple cinnamon goat cheese that shows up during the fall months. It is delicious. It is-
Cheese should not be
Fair.
sweet.
No, it is a log of goat cheese with apple and cinnamon around it. It's delicious. Not aggressive at all. It's like a warm hug. So,
I like aggressive cheese. I can get into a fine like Vermont sharp cheddar. I'm just saying, same class.
bro, expand your cheese horizons, please.
Did you go to Duke too?
I did not. I mean, if that's what it takes,
You sound like it.
I would have passed
Oh.
the cheese entrance
Richie.
exam for Duke. Parmigiano.
We got a lot of tweets here,
right.
fellas. Let's
John's
hear it.
already done with the show.
This one is from the Spook It podcast. Loved the film, but couldn't help but wonder how different the overall theme would be had they never shown the witch outright. Thoughts?
I don't think it would have changed it that much. I mean, I was really.
I think people would have walked out of the fucking.
Yeah.
theater.
I'm glad that they showed the witch, but I don't think it would have changed
Are
it
you
that
saying
much.
there's no witch?
Well, I mean,
You
I
mean
think
to
I,
tell me there's no witch
I
in this
think
movie?
I brought it up like right at the beginning, like that. The showing of the witch right at the top, though, I think that does change it pretty dramatic. Like you would have had a lot more questions.
Well, it's intentional because then you
Well,
know
yeah,
there's a
sure.
witch. That's
Yeah.
he wants you to know that early on.
No, and that's what I say. Like if you just remove that witch from the very beginning, that does change it a fair bit.
I also do think, like, for me personally, I think that showing the witch and knowing that the witch was real gave this, like, really kind of tied together that sort of folklore fairy tale thing they're going for. Whereas otherwise it would have just been this really sad psychological thriller set in fucking, like Puritan New England, which I think would have just been miserable. I think adding that sort of fantastical element to it is what makes it worthwhile. That's my opinion.
I forgot the question already. Next.
Yeah, Eric looks like he just fucking fell asleep at his mic, so we're gonna just keep pushing on here. This one is from Joe Megan. Brock Lesnar with Candyman's hook versus Black Phillip. Who you got? Man,
Black Phillip.
I will say we have a lot of Black Phillip versus tweets, and I feel like another contender has entered the ring.
Okay, nice.
I am
I
happy.
like it.
Yeah.
We need like a Hell in a Cell match to decide the victor.
There's actually, I think the next one, Mark, is also a pretty good.
I mean, to be fair, we saw Black Phillip straight up fucking kill a dude, and
I think that Brock Lesnar, if he has one weak spot, it's probably in the Jesus spot there on his ribs.
Yeah.
Well,
and if he's got a hook for his hand, he's not going to be able to get a hold of the horns.
No, Brock Lesnar does not.
I
have a
will
hook for his
say
hand.
I've been reading a lot about the wrestling lately.
He does in the tweet
because it's WrestleMania season. Brock Lesnar has two weaknesses. One of them is getting punched in his no-no button, and the other one is getting hit with steel chairs.
No button. What?
I mean, getting hit with a steel chair is kind of like everyone's weakness, I think.
What if it was Candyman, but instead of bees, Black Phillips came out of his mouth?
Oh, hello.
Just saying.
That would be weird to look at.
Leave the versus scenarios to the pros, Eric. Okay.
Listen, that was gold.
All right, this one is related. Who wouldst
Who
prevail?
thou'st win?
Yeah, there's a lot of wouldst and thous and shit in this movie, and that's hard to follow. But who wouldst prevail in a contest of strength? Candyman with corn famine for hands, or Black Phillip with Brock Lesnar horns? What say me?
I gotta say, Cece sent out a super interesting article before the show for the director, interview from the director, and he makes specific mention that it wasn't necessarily like an integral part to the movie, but that the corn was like specifically had a rot on it that was known to cause hallucinogens.
Yeah,
which is an awesome like little touch that to just find out later is crazy. The corn did look not super healthy.
Yeah,
and did you notice their dinners were just mash, like a corn mash?
Yeah,
all they had for dinner.
Well, I mean that was all and there was a couple scenes of him trying to actually like squeeze more out of the corn.
And that's not necessarily like like if they used to live in Britain too, like they probably didn't see corn until they came to here.
Yeah, but what kind of person's going to move his family out there and say, you know what? We're going to live out here all winter. I'm just going to plant some fucking corn because
I'm going to plant
this shit's delicious.
I'm going to plant 8 years of corn. That should last.
What they had.
It's 2016, bro. It's all about quinoa and sweet potatoes.
That's right. Do you even quinoa?
This next one is from Ostdog.
No, it's not.
Would excuse me?
What was your reaction to the name? Sorry.
What a fucking troll. Would witches become Kubrickian dogs of war if directed in the last century?
I wasn't sure.
That tweet is too smart for me, I think.
Well, I mean, Robert Egger just like blatantly says that he was inspired by Stanley Kubrick in this movie, and there's several scenes that are like pretty identical to The Shining, with the twins or with the witch kind of, being beautiful and then turning into an old biddy. But I don't really know. I mean, it was rather Kubrickian already, so I'm not really sure.
I'll go with yes.
It was definitely Kubrickian in the way that it was kind of like removed.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I don't know.
And it had twins.
And twins. All right.
It was cold in a way that Kubrick's films are always not literally cold.
Yeah, you mean I follow.
All right, next one, Metal Prof. This is not a Rod Burgundy, but it's close. Black Phillip versus Black Pete in a no holds barred cage match. Who wins?
Thank you.
I actually had to look up what Black Pete was, and boy, if I ever feel like America's backwards, I should just Google.
Isn't that like it's a Krampus sidekick somewhere, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it on our Krampus show, I believe.
Yeah, but I have the memory of a goldfish, so I don't remember that.
It wasn't a happy thing, so you just blocked it out.
Yeah, I think we've already established that you're gonna have to come pretty hard to knock Black Phillip off his throne.
Yeah.
So
new champion of Bloody Good Horror.
That's a challenge. Oh, Black Phillip. All right. This next one is from The Lausch. What is your favorite song about the devil / Satan?
Oh.
Sabbath NIB is mine.
I don't know that I have one.
I don't know. Electric Wizard has some pretty good ones.
You know what? There is a song on Snoop Dogg's album Doggy Style in which he speaks to the devil, and I'm actually not making this up. That's probably my pick. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
I'll go with Sympathy for the Devil. That was like, pretty obvious one in my book, but it's a good
That's
song.
the only one you could remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I could come up with more if I really went to the
I
mat.
do
but-
wish Joe was here to try and parse through all the fucking black metal he listens to and figure out
I
which
was gonna
his
say, I
favorite
mean-
song about Satan is.
There's
I think it's Murder Was the Case. What's the name of the
in
song?
on Kanye's Twisted Dark Fantasy, isn't one of the songs called Devil in a Black Dress?
Something, yeah. Sure.
It's not really about the
No, it's
devil
not.
necessarily,
It's a
but
good album though.
yeah, I really like that song too.
not.
Bloody Good Horror giving the whitest interpretations of devil-based hip-hop since 2016.
Devil based.
I mean, what Eric is
I
coming
know
up with,
every
I
single word of Doggy Style back to front, including the interludes. So
Particularly
I don't.
back.
Yeah.
Casey, do you have a favorite Satan song?
No, because John's took the only one I could remember off the top of my
Satan.
head too.
The Devil Went Down to Georgia. All
There
right.
you go.
Oh, you know what,
I missed,
John?
oh man, I missed my
John, he
chance.
does talk about Satan in that song you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's also
specifically.
there's got to be several Tenacious D songs that could qualify here,
Sure.
which would
Oh
also
yeah.
sing. So I don't know.
All right, here's another tweet that flew way over my head, and hopefully one of you guys can make some sense of this. This is from Chris Krangler. Should I wash my hands before buying into the fallacy of Kleptis or rip the wings off of baby birds?
Cece.
I don't know what Kleptis is either, but I would stay away from ripping the wings off of baby birds.
Yeah.
So I would
don't
go with
think-
washing your hands.
I don't think fallacy of Kleptis is actually a thing. Just throwing it out there.
It's on Twitter.
Well, I think it's that. Isn't that dude's name Kleptis?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, this dude's got some of the
Yeah,
weirdest tweets I've ever seen.
Yeah, and convinces us to read his name on air.
When
I like it.
When Krangle dreams of Dangle, only the broken will return changed.
Strong. That's at Chris Krangler with a K. If anyone
This
is
is like the
interested.
fucking weirdest Twitter feed I've ever seen.
It's,
Everybody,
what did we decide? It's like Santa's sex offender cousin or something.
everybody,
Krangler.
Chris Krangler. Everybody would/wouldn't pee in my mouth.
All right, next week. We actually do have a couple of BGH classics, but I think there's a couple more regular.
All right. I'm gonna burn through the rest of these. B. Lassiter, why did Joe BGH lie to me? He said, "Sweet baby Jesus tastes like peanut butter and chocolate, but it just tastes like beer."
Next week, the peanut butter solution.
Yes, hopefully Joe makes it.
Uternium and Erdness butter. I'm not watching that movie
Yeah,
unless
Joe-
he promises he's going to be here.
Fair share.
I might not watch it anyway, so
I'm going to have to take time out of my weekend.
Next one is from Alan Murch. As my job is going, does John want to employ me as a highly paid second for the great many duels he no doubt has?
Like a squire, like in Game of
Yeah.
Thrones? Do you need a
Just to carry
Podrick
your
type
sword.
character?
He's a pinch dueler.
we can look
To
into
hold
it.
your
No
white
promises,
gloves
though.
in between slapping duels?
Here
Good
you
luck
go,
with
John.
Good luck with the job situation, though. I mean, doesn't sound good.
All right, John, time to bring it. You ready?
Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, you definitely do. This one is from Effort JB. In New York in 3 weeks, the best cup of coffee, best slice of pizza. Where can a man enjoy a beer? Where have all the cowboys gone?
Yeah, I mean, so well, it's really hard because the coffee and the pizza are going to be very neighborhood specific.
Can you hear me rolling my eyes over here?
No, but seriously, like there's Joe's Coffee. There's a place called Oslo that are both like within 5 blocks of my apartment and are really, really good. I mean, just depending on where you are, there's going to be other good coffee options. Same with pizza. There's a place, I think it's called John's. I almost have to look it up. That's right off the West 4th Street subway stop.
It's called John's Apartment.
But but no, I mean, like, it's the same that, like, there's a place called Salvo's in my neighborhood that I think is one of the best slices in the city. But everybody will tell you that there's a great slice of pizza in their neighborhood.
Yeah, it's fucking New York. Like, go anywhere.
So the drinking, I will recommend Joe's favorite and actually my favorite bar too. It's called the Pony Bar. There's actually 2 of them. One is actually right near Times Square. It's on 45th Street and 10th Avenue. Go to that.
I can also vouch for that bar for the hour I spent in it.
Yeah. So
There's
there's
a good beer
yeah
list.
there's the Pony Bar's quite good. There's a bunch of good beer bars. It's actually the Blind Tiger. There's a million of them. So
If you're wasted and want to make an asshole of yourself, go to Hofbrauhaus with John and I specifically. If you want to just
Oh
scream
my
and
god, you
pound on the
guys.
table and
I have never seen Schnarr's rowdy, but he was rowdy. Like,
oh, we got rowdy. As
I
fuck.
would expect Mark to be the belligerent one that would get us in trouble, but it was Schnarr's.
Ah, man.
you know these
All
things
the
happen
way.
sometimes.
And I
Bro,
just wanted to go to bed.
Sometimes you just have to go hard in the paint.
Yeah.
So that's just how it is. All right, this last one is from Coastality. Is there a type of kill that freaks you out so much that you'd avoid a film if you knew it had that kind of kill in it?
No.
Monsters coming up from deep water.
Flaying.
Yeah, I was gonna say like flaying or like in House of Wax when there's any like skin peeling off or you cutting tendons. I'm not really a fan of
Yeah,
that.
just peeling in general is a
Any type of peeling or flaying or
Any of those things.
melting, you know.
I also have problems with I have problems with slits in the skin, not just slits in general. But like Nightbreed and the main dude, and when he get all monstered out, that grossed me out.
I always think of the Hostel, the first Hostel, when they cut that dude's Achilles tendon there.
Yeah,
That's
no
effed
thanks.
up.
Any of those like real close up, real deliberate cutting of body parts, I think is
And they
tough,
cut,
but-
right up close to that as it happens.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
we do have some
also
BGH
tooth stuff.
classics here.
Not
BGH
into the tooth stuff.
Hashtag BGH Classics.
Yeah, tooth stuff is
Bitches.
terrible.
Don't like the tooth stuff. All right, so if you're not in the know, if you're listening to a BGH Classic and you hear us say something particularly funny or ignorant, tweet it to us with the hashtag BGH Classics. First one is from Robale. One of those, and this is a quote from Eric on episode 93,
A lot of
Paranormal
these seem to be
Activity.
for me.
One of those things I can put up with, but if you're haunted and bitchy, I don't know. Wow, what an evolved human Eric's become after all these years.
I mean, I kind of stand by that actually. I think I understand, like, based on what I remember from that movie, where that
I don't
was
even
coming from.
remember the context of that. All right, this next one's from Nerds of Gore. This is it's not attributed to anyone, but it's from our Antichrist episode. This was more difficult to watch than straight up castration because we've all been there, you know?
From what movie?
Antichrist.
That was Joe.
No,
I'm
we
s-
don't need to.
I'm sure-
Unattributed.
That sounds like Joe.
It sounds like Joe.
Was
and
that
I'm sure
the first episode or something?
maybe. And undoubtedly that's about the wiener blood scene for sure.
Wiener blood.
All right, this this one's really good. This one is also attributed to Eric. Just remember, I can headbutt you in the ball sack without jumping or squatting. That's episode 68, Haunting in Connecticut.
I mean, that one's pretty accurate.
Jesus
God.
Christ, we're fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. I love this. We're so good. This podcast is
Bam.
fantastic. Woof.
Just pure gold.
And then Joe responded, as true today as it was back then. Eric is not grown.
Listen, when you grow up being a little guy, you have to think about the quickest route to taking somebody out at any given point, and it's always the nuts.
What if it's a lady?
Head in the I've
Same
been
area.
punched in the crotch before,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it hurts just as bad. So
Or the eyes.
Any-
Eyes are pretty good.
Oh my god. All right.
Is that episode of The
that bit.
Office where Dwight's like, the eyes are the crotch of the face?
I think we've reached the end here.
Yeah, that's it.
This is the
That's all we
end.
got.
No more?
That's it. That was all the
Boo.
tweets.
I don't know about that.
That is it.
Well, thank you guys for hitting us up on hashtag BGH Classics. That's pretty cool. Keep those coming if you're listening. If you want to find out how to get those back episodes, go to patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Or if you just want individual episodes, you can still go to the site and click on the podcast tab. Next week, we're reviewing The Peanut Butter Solution, a.k.a. some real weird movie Joe saw when he was...
Unternehmen Erdness Butter.
Some weird movie Joe saw when he was a kid about kids putting peanut butter on their dangles so they can grow pubes or something. I don't know. I'm sure it'll be a really fascinating, enlightening episode. So
I'm not sure that's the movie I downloaded.
this is, of course, a staff
man.
pick for Joe. This is why we're watching this movie. But then, I don't know. Looks like we got some other theatrical stuff coming up soon. Is that right, John?
There's a bunch of theatrical. The Other Side of the Door is 3/4, March 4th, and then a little film called 10 Cloverfield Lane on March 11th.
I'm way excited for that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mark, what reviews were at bloodygoodhorror.com today?
Oh Jesus, you always do that to me, and I
Well, now
can't.
just expect it.
So we had a rare review collision today where Sophie reviewed Slumber Party Massacre, which Shelton reviewed last year, but Sophie has a very interesting take on it that you should definitely read. We also posted a list of the top 6 horror shows from the 1960s, part of Andrew's ongoing series of the top TV shows from various decades.
Cool.
And he called out some stuff that I had never heard of, which I think is really cool. So that's definitely worth a look. I had never heard of Ultra Q, is the Japanese show that he brings up that looks pretty cool, and I think I'm going to check out. We had a review of Cottage County from Colin, a review of Southbound from Andy. We have the trailer for Green Room, so if you haven't seen that yet, that was posted by Jason. We've got a review from The Witch by our very own Cece. That should have been the first thing I brought up. And also a new review of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies written by Evan, who was not on the show. So that is sure to be a unique take on that.
Did he like it?
Yeah, kind of.
Sorta.
I mean, I think
Kinda,
he
sort of the same way we did.
Yeah, he was just, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but maybe if you're watching the video, you can see the reflection of the rating in my screen. But yeah, so we've got new reviews every day, and we've got some pretty interesting stuff coming up. I have we've got some stuff coming up, I think, pretty soon on this spin-off show. I was talking to John about it today, and I was going to email Eric, and then I forgot. So we're working on that, and yeah, that's what's coming up.
I can only receive the emails you send, Mark.
It's very deep.
It's the final deep thought for the show. That's going to do it, guys. Next week, The Peanut Butter Solution. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you then.
Adios.
See you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.